This week, Sony has some updates on PlayStation availability and shed some light on development issues that they've had related to this pandemic. So let's go ahead, together, as a people of course, and take it out! And welcome to another sensational Sunday. I'm Mike, and this is Mike Text It Out, and yes, I'm talking about the tech news. And now before we hop into it, I know it's been the holidays here in the US. I hope everybody had a great holiday. I hope you got some great Black Friday deals. Maybe you're able to snag a PlayStation. I actually know somebody that was able to. And speaking of that, that's what I'm talking about this week. I know last week I talked about the whole thing with Amazon UK and the PlayStations getting stolen. But this week we're shifting our focus over to Sony themselves. Sony Interactive CEO Jim Ryan did an interview with Tass.com. It's a Russian website. I hope I said it right. It's TASS.com. And it was a really interesting interview. The reason that I picked this story is because last week I mentioned how both Microsoft and Sony claimed that the pandemic didn't affect, them producing the systems, the amount of systems that they wanted to. But in this interview, he does basically say that there could have been a few more systems that were produced, if it wasn't for the pandemic. And he kind of talks about some of the difficulties with working through the pandemic. So let me just read his quote really quick so I don't misquote anything, and I'll put it up on the screen, of course. The question that was asked basically was, if it weren't for the pandemic, would the PS5 have been any different? And the answer was, in terms of the product and its feature set, no, absolutely not. The way we took it to market might have been different, but the actual product would have been the same. We might have had a few more to sell, but not very many. The guys on the production/manufacturing side have worked miracles. So they admit, if it wasn't for the pandemic, they might have had a few more systems. Now, it may not have been anything major, but who knows how many that is. That could have been thousands, because they did technically make millions of systems. So maybe to them, not too many is thousands. Either way, I'm still going to err on the side of they probably would have had the opportunity to ramp up production if it wasn't for everything going on with the pandemic. So I think it probably did affect sales. The other thing they detail in the article is just, trying to get everything with the PlayStation finalized, because there's a lot of when it comes to the final design and you're having to look over this intricate box and make sure it meets your expectations, and he basically said having to do that over webcam is a lot more difficult, and the process in general with this console release is just a lot more difficult. And I'm sure Microsoft probably went through something similar, because it's going to be harder to certify something. You can't go there in person to actually look at it and discuss things. It's going to take a lot longer just doing things over webcam versus doing it in person. So I just thought it was really interesting that they're now kind of opening up about this, saying that there were difficulties. There was a possibility that there could have been more PlayStations, whereas before they were like, nope, we produced the amount that we would produce either way. So basically my question is, did Sony lie about it? They lie about it a little bit. They lied a little bit when they said there weren't any changes, as far as how many they were going to produce, because obviously he said they could have produced a little bit more, but it wasn't a bad lie. It's not like it was a lie done to trick the consumers. I feel like, in a bad way at least, I feel like this was a lie in order to try to keep as many of their systems out of the scalpers' hands, especially something like this that we knew was going to be super popular. Like the PlayStation 4 sold over 100 million. So of course when the PlayStation 5 comes out, it was going to be bananas, especially people, being stuck at home. So the last thing you want to say is hey, there's going to be a shortage of systems. It was already going to be crazy anyway with these scalpers and resellers trying to grab them to sell them for double the price. But just saying that, if they would have put that out there before the PlayStation came out and be like, oh, this is going to be short, we don't know how the supply is going to be, it would have just been even worse. Like I said, it's possible the PlayStation did lie a little bit, or Sony lied a little bit, saying that, they had put out as many as they predicted. But also, the demand is a lot higher. So, like he said, I'm going to err on the side of Sony here, that they probably could have produced a few thousand more, but in the grand scheme of things, it probably wouldn't have made that much of a difference the way that they've been selling out, the way that everything's been selling out. The other good thing is PlayStation did put out a tweet this week from the official account, of course, saying that there would be more PlayStations before the end of the year to check with your local retailers. So apparently, they're trying to get them produced as fast as possible. This was also mentioned in the article. They said basically they created a bunch of demand for the system, and now they're trying to catch up as fast as they can with that demand. So it sounds like retailers may get some back in stock even before the end of the year, which is, like a month at this point. And that's good. They actually have been popping up. Someone I know was actually able to get one during Black Friday from GameStop, one of the bundles. So it seems like it's still difficult to get, but they are popping back in stock along with the Xbox. Microsoft said that they probably wouldn't be caught up until around, March or April of next year as far as, their system production. But it's good that Sony is coming out here and saying that more will be available to try to keep people from just being like, I'm just going to pay $1,100 to somebody in this back alley for this PlayStation 5. Don't do that. Like I mentioned last week, please don't do that. Just wait is always the best option. There are a few more things from this interview that I thought was interesting. They basically asked them about, the situation with Microsoft and Bethesda, and then they kind of, in a shady way, were like, we like to focus on building our own studios and making acquisitions to support those studios, but what they did was cool too. But as far as them working with Bethesda, they basically said we'll have to wait and see. Now obviously there are the 2 PlayStation 5 exclusives, timed exclusives that are coming out, which are Deathloop, and I forgot what the other game is, I always forget. But those are Bethesda games. Of course, that was in place before Microsoft bought them. Now, when we're talking about the next Elder Scrolls or Doom or something like that, of course, that's going to be a wait and see thing if it's actually going to come to the PlayStation 5. And I think that there's a good chance, or an alright chance, depending on how willing Sony is to work with Microsoft. But I could also see Microsoft wanting to do something like bring Game Pass to PlayStation in order to allow those games to be up there. Like the only way to play it is on Game Pass on PlayStation, and I could definitely see Sony not doing that. So we'll have to see if they're able to kind of work with each other and one of them is willing to bend to what the other one wants. But I don't know. It's still iffy, but it doesn't seem like either of them are closed off to the idea. So that's good, because for gamers, people just want to be able to play the game on whatever system, or if you're on PC, people just want to be able to play the games. And that's the whole point. And hopefully they will work something out, and maybe the next Elder Scrolls and Doom and Fallout can be on PlayStation 5. So the last thing I want to talk about that I found interesting was they asked how they would respond to Microsoft's Game Pass, which honestly I wasn't expecting that question to even come up and be answered by Sony at this point. They did mention they have PlayStation Now, and if you're not familiar with Game Pass, it's where you get to play this library of games, kind of like Netflix for games. You get a library of games to play as long as you're paying the subscription. Currently, Game Pass Ultimate, which includes Xbox Live, xCloud streaming, Game Pass on PC and on Xbox. So you get to play basically on PC, Xbox, or you can even stream it to your phone right now if you have an Android phone. But it's $15 a month, and it's honestly a good deal for what it is. Right now, Sony does have PlayStation Now, but that's mainly a streaming service for older games. If you want to play PS3, 2, or 1, you kind of just have to go back and play those systems or get PlayStation Now, and some of those games are up there. So it's really not the same thing. So I wonder if they're planning on pivoting PlayStation Now into something closer to Game Pass or just rolling out a new service. But either way, they did say that there'll be more to come with their answer to Game Pass. So that's right there saying like they got an answer. They got something up their sleeve. I'm just wondering if it's going to be as compelling as Game Pass. It has the chance to, because Sony has some really good first-party titles. If they can work out some deals with some third parties like Microsoft did, they can really make it a compelling service to really compete with Game Pass. And I think that having competition is good. And when we look back, like let's look back at the Xbox and the Xbox 360. As far as moving to the next feature, first, Microsoft's always been better at that than Sony. Like the Xbox, terrible system, mostly. I love my Xbox, the original Xbox, but it was pretty terrible aside from like Halo and Halo 2 and a couple other games. But the online in Halo really kind of set the tone for how you do online with the friends list and all that stuff. And then on the 360, when they integrated at a system level and they added achievements, that really took it to the next level, and Sony was not there yet. When the PlayStation 3 came out, as far as its online features, it had to do a lot of catching up to the point where we just now, in the last couple of years, got the ability to change your name. That's been a feature on the Xbox since the 360, like being able to change your online name. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff when they built out their infrastructure, they just weren't prepared for what Microsoft was going to do. And Game Pass is another one of those things. Game Pass has been around for a while now, but it is now, we're launching these new systems, it's definitely like, oh, well, Microsoft has this. Why doesn't Sony have something like this? Because Game Pass is awesome. And Sony, again, is playing catch-up. Now, not saying that Sony's version will be worse or better. it's just one of those things that I noticed. Like, it seems like when it comes to implementing these new online features, Microsoft has always been a little bit ahead of Sony in that department. But overall, I'd say go read the interview. It's really interesting. Some of it only pertains to Russia. The link's in the description. But yeah, overall, it's a great interview. It's a great read. And I'm really excited to see what's going to come next as far as PlayStation. And don't go out there and pay $1,100 for PS5, please. But you know what you can do. If you enjoyed this video, I will be back on Wednesday with another super cool unboxing. So make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe. And always do at least 2 things at the same time.